Hi and welcome. Today we're going to be looking at strings and specifically we're looking at something known as string concatenation. Now, string concatenation is not necessarily a complicated topic. In fact, it's fairly easy actually. The hardest part about it is probably the name we give it. We're going to go over how this works now. So in order to understand string concatenation, let's take a little step backwards and understand what we mean by the word string. So, a character, okay, is a single letter, symbol, or digit in your computer. So that may be a key that you can press on the keyboard or something along those lines. Okay, so we're very much used to dealing with characters. We see them all the time, but we may not use the word character to describe them. The key thing is the word character means a single one of them. So maybe that's a P, or the number 5, or maybe a star. Now, a digit is a number, a single number, okay, so 1 to 9 basically, and 0, okay, and these two can be stored as a character. We'll go into what that means in a later session on strings, I think. So long short of it, if you press a single key on your keyboard, we refer to this as a character. So here's an example. So on the screen, I have got a series of characters. I've got the character H, an E, an L, another L, and an O. If I put all those characters together, I get a string. And this is what we call strings. So they are made up of more than one character. Okay, that's the key element of a string. The reason it's called a string, I don't know if this is officially the reason why it's called a string, but we're kind of like stringing together a bunch of characters. You can imagine, I don't know, I was kind of putting some string between each character to kind of join them all together in a necklace or something like that. It's that kind of idea. We call it string because we string together these characters. On the screen, you can see I've used arrows to kind of show that one letter is going to the next one in the order that we see them. In Python, we use quotes to show that something is a string, and this allows us to tell the difference between a string and a variable. And this becomes very important as we go on with our coding. This is a common mistake students maybe make, is understand the difference between a string and a variable. They are very, very, very different. A string is just a bit of text, a bunch of characters, which I want to show or save or store or whatever directly. And a variable allows us to store and remember one value, which could be a string, it could be a number, it could be something else as well. So yeah, we can store strings in variables, even though a variable is effectively a word, and a string could be effectively a word as well. And again, that's where the confusion comes in. So let's see some code examples to see what I'm getting at with this. Here at the moment, I've got an example of a string. Okay, the string says the word hello. It's been stored inside a variable x. If I run this program, you'll see that nothing actually happens. But if I now go print x, you'll see that it prints out the word hello. Now, if I change the value, so let's say I change this to maybe by, run that code again, and I do the print again, you'll see I get the word by. Even though I've got the same x in there, it's displaying a different string. And the reason behind that is because I've stored a different value. You should also notice that there's quotation marks around my string. Let's see what happens if I don't put those quotation marks in. So I go x equals by. Here I get an error. It says name error, name by is not defined. So what does that mean? Well, as we know, variables have to have a value, okay, using assignment. So if I try to use a variable that doesn't exist, let's say I've got a variable called does not exist, which doesn't exist. If I run that, I should get the same error. Name error, does not exist, is not defined. And simply what that means is I haven't given it a value. So if I give it a value now, let's say has a value, and I run that, well, let's say print it out as well. What should happen is it'll display that text for me. So if I press run, you see it says has a value. So in order to use a variable, I must supply a value first. Okay, I need to assign a value first. And if I don't do that, I get the error name error. So strings must have quotes. Okay, so if I want to store the word by into a string, I must include the quotes. Otherwise, Python doesn't know that we are talking about a string. So I can also use strings inside other commands. I can do this, print hello, and that'll print out the word hello. I could say print hello Bob, and does the exact same thing. So hopefully you're very familiar with things like this already, because you've probably already done it quite a lot of times. Well, let's say I've got a variable x, which now equals Bob. I can maybe mix up my strings and my variable by doing this. I can have the string hello followed by the string x. I'm just going to put a space here, and you'll see why in a second. When I run it, you see it now says hello Bob. What happens if I try and do this with a number? So I'm now going to go print hello. Actually, let's do something else. This is a number, and then I'll put y in there. I press run, and I'll get an error. It says type error. Can only concatenate str, not int, to str. Let's work this one out. Remember, concatenate is what we're looking at the moment, and that is joining strings together. Str is short for string, int is short for integer. What it's saying is I can't join a string, an int to a string. So I can't join an int to a string. So y is the number 3. This number is a string, so I can't join this together. So we'd have to cast that or change our code slightly in order to get that running. And we're going to look at that later on in the video. So now we've looked at a bit more information about strings. Let's look at string concatenation. It is possible to join two strings together. So here I've got two strings. I've got hello and a kill. So let's say I want to concatenate or join these strings together. We can use concatenation to join as many as we want to, and the way we do it is very simple. We just use the plus. Now, when we are using strings, the plus is no longer adding. Okay, so it's not like adding two numbers together. It is joining strings together, and again, this is the reason why we use the word concatenation instead of add. So if I joined hello and Akil together, I would get hello Akil. Now notice that although I get the answer we'd expect, there's no space between them. Okay, string concatenation joins the strings together as they are with no extra punctuation, no extra spaces, no tabs, no nothing. It just literally puts them together, sticks them together. So here I've got some code which has 3 separate strings. Okay, string 1, string 2, string 3. And each of them have got 3 different bits of information in it. So if I run this code, you'll see that it displays each of these on separate lines. I want to put all these together on one line. So there's a number of ways I can do this. One way I'm going to do it is by concatenating them all together. So let's call this variable sentence. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add all of these together. So I'm just going to go string 1 plus string 2 plus string 3. Now remember, when we are using plus in this context, we are using concatenation. Okay, concatenation, joining of strings. I'm then going to print that out so we can actually see the result, like so. And what should happen is I see them all together. So run that, and there you go. A cat slept. Now, you'll probably notice that there are no spaces between this. Okay, so I wanted you to see that because when you concatenate strings together, it literally just joins them together. It won't put spaces in there by default. Okay, so you either have to put the space in yourself, or you have to make sure the strings have the spaces straight off the bat. So maybe let's look at another way of doing this. So let's go something like this. Sentence equals string 1. And then I want a space. So this time, instead of concatenating string 2 immediately,
I'm just going to put a space in there. Now, what I've done this time, you'll notice that my space has got quotes around it. So I'm creating a brand new string, which all it has inside it is a single space. If I then print that out, so print sentence again, and run that, you'll see that it now has a space. Another way I could have done it is in my original variable, I could just put spaces after these. Okay, so if I maybe run those and then just run this one again, you'll see it's now got those spaces in there. So I can do it that way. I could also do it a completely different way. So if I maybe take this space out again. Now this isn't strictly a string concatenation, what I'm about to do. Okay, I could go print string 1, comma string 2, comma string 3. Now, you've probably seen this quite a lot from me if you've been watching my videos. And what's happening here is it's treating these as completely separate parameters to the function print. Okay, and what's essentially happening is it's printing each one separately, but all on the same line, which is why we get the space in between them. That one is quite a nice one just to use if you don't have to manually put your spaces in. There are lots of other ways, so we can format the string and things like that, but they're probably outside the scope of this video. Okay, feel free to look it up on other videos should you wish to do that.
Okay, it's now time for a quick task. Okay, so here's some code. So copy that code into your Python editor. And then what I want you to do is create a fourth variable. So there's 3 at the moment. I want to create your fourth, maybe call it full sentence or something like that. And I want you to join these together so they make sense, okay? So something along the lines of, do you like reading, with a question mark, okay? I then want you to display that fourth variable you create. So if I call it full sentence, you display that full sentence, okay? So have a go at that, pause the video, and I'm going to show you the answer in a moment. Well done for having a go at that task. So on the screen you've got my solution to it. So when I've created my variable full sentence, I've just gone full sentence equals, and I've just used string concatenation to join them together. I've then just printed it out in the same way we'd print out any old variable. The only little tweak I've made to it is I put a little space on the end of reading and end of do you like, just so it prints out like a proper sentence. Hopefully you got the same answer, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.